Maffeo, I'm looking forward to your talk pretty soon. And Marilyn from Orlando. We had Andrew Freeman from Seattle in here for just a second. I'm sure he'll be back. But give us a little exclamation point in the chat if you guys are excited about what Steve's about to talk about. Just want to see if you guys can use the chats. Okay. All right. I'm going to put on the Spiderhead soundtrack from Netflix. A little bit of casual copyright infringement for you. But it was actually spectacularly good, that soundtrack. So I'm kind of excited about that. So let's see here. So Steve's going to be talking about strategic partnerships between brands and accounts.
Okay.
This is a talk intended for buyers, or I'm sorry, for brand reps. And Steve has a wealth of knowledge with this, but we're going to start in a couple minutes, wait for people to trickle in. Please use the chat. If you have any questions, thoughts, ideas, and as Steve goes through the presentation, which he will not be able to see the chat while he's presenting, I will go ahead and ask on your behalf. So we'll go ahead and just tell us where you're coming from, guys. Who is where? Mercer Island sounds like Seattle to the uninitiated. Yes, Steve, I can see the slides change. Not it's on the first slide right now, though. So you're gonna have to, Steve. You're gonna have to stay on the actual slide deck, but outside of the presentation. And I'll tell you what people are saying and asking.
Okay. You can hear me too?
I can hear you. Yep. I can see your
screen. You can see slide 2.
Nope, we can't see slide 2. You're gonna have to go to the slide presentation itself, outside of the presentation window.
Yeah,
and just change the slides.
All right, hold on.
And I'll tell you what's going on in the chat. All right, so people are trickling in. I'm kind of excited about this. We got Marilyn. We got Marilyn. We got Andrew Freeman. We got Ben from New York. We got Bill from Barrington. Chris from Prague. The Italian Stallion coming in, who's going to give a talk, I think, tomorrow. Chris, when is your talk? Is that tomorrow or the next day? I forget. There's like 100 of them. So be sure and use the chat, y'all. This is intended to be a very interactive session. So Chris Maffeo is going to be talking on Thursday. It's a small community of people. We all know each other. So Steve and Chris talk quite often. So, no pressure, Steve. No, you guys, in any other industry, I think you guys would probably be considered competitors, but because we have such a cool business, we all work together. So, all right. So we're going to start in just a couple minutes. We have just one more technical issue to iron out. And we have, wow, this is a lot of people. So we got Diana from Fort Lauderdale here. Thank you, Diana, for coming up. Thank you for showing up. We've put a lot of work into getting to this point. Steve was mired in airline stuff. Can everybody see he's mired in airline stuff just to be here. But can you guys all see the screen? Can you guys all see the first slide? It says strategic partnerships. Use the chat, please. Can you see the first slide? This is the first time we've ever done the Supplier Summit, so please forgive us. If you haven't got the patience, then to stick around to the end, then everything will be replayed through the end of the month, and then you'll start seeing the stuff in Who's My Rep coming up every week. So, wow, Steve, you are a popular guy. People are starting to show up. This is exciting.
So long as they see the screen and not me, it should be all right.
We're only seeing the first slide. Are you changing the slides?
Can you see the second one now?
Yep. You just changed the slide. Great. Good to go.
All right.
Okay. All right, guys. We're going to start in 1 minute. Give us a shout on what if you wouldn't mind writing in the chat. What do you, just based on the title of strategic partnerships and the best way to engage your brand with on-premise, what do you expect to get out of this? What is your vision? What is your takeaway for what do you want to take away from this presentation from Steve Myers, an accomplished brand builder of 20 years? What do you want to get out of this? Just use the chat, y'all. I'm going to be asking several questions. The point of having a live webinar versus just a YouTube channel is that we want to hear what you're thinking. We want you to share what's going on in your mind so that we can tailor the conversation to you. Ordinarily, you'd be spending $500-600 to spend an hour with Steve, but we're gonna give that to you for practically nothing, or actually nothing, for the next 40 minutes. Okay, so Ben is looking for how to stay true to both the brand and the venue values. Right. No, that's the $1 million question. That's kind of exactly why the Supplier Summit and Who's My Rep was created, was to answer the question of how can we better create an ecosystem between the buyers and the sellers. And that is a brilliant question. And so, Steve, no pressure at all to answer this question. I know that this has been the focus of DBC for the last 7 years now.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah. Well, I remember the early days.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness.
But that's...
What's that, bud? Steve, I lost your audio, man.
Oh, you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay. Yeah, hopefully that's what this presentation will start to answer for you guys.
Okay, Ben. All right. Go ahead.
A lot of this is common sense, but I'm just trying to collate it all into one space for everyone, because oftentimes sort of small brands and small businesses are so busy running their businesses that they forget, or it's just a lack of oversight or lack of resources. So collating all this stuff, hopefully is going to answer your question, Ben.
Great. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get this thing started. So hello and welcome to the very first Supplier Summit. We are so excited to have you here. This has been one of those, like, if you build it, will they come kind of things. So we're starting in about a minute, but we wanted to get the rest of the group to join us. So I wanted to ask you guys a few questions to see who's here. So type an exclamation point in the chat if you're excited to be here to hear Steve Myers talk, please. And also let us know where you're coming from. So just tell us where you are right now. We'd love to see where in the world everybody's coming from. And also later, if you haven't yet, please head to the ultimate directory of beverage and hospitality suppliers in Who's My Rep. So that's you can get a free account right now at who'smyrep.net. And what this does is the way this is kind of beats out the Who's My Rep Facebook group is that it actually improves your SEO visibility. And that is where people are actually looking for brands. Is they're saying, who's my rep for XYZ brand? Or who's my distributor rep in Minnesota or Jacksonville? So that is to answer that question. And the more users we have, the more powerful the database becomes. So if you're unable to stay for the whole session, don't worry. There will be a replay available through the end of the month. And that is part of your ticket, however you ended up getting here. If you, for whatever chats you talked that you sign up for, you will always be able to see this through the end of the month. And then we'll start drip feeding the content out on the Who's My Rep channel, and then also our Facebook and Instagram channels as well, and YouTube channels. So if you've got a question for the presenter, please be sure to put it down into the chat. We will definitely answer it before the session is over. This is a highly focused chat by Steve Myers. Steve is the president and CEO of Dynamic Beverage Consulting. They offer tailored services for spirits brands looking to successfully enter the U.S. market or expand their existing market presence. So the specific things that Steve helps his clients with is the 3-tier system navigation, which is impossible. So check out the big old brain on Steve. So he helps out with branding and marketing. And the route to market strategies, as well as sales and distribution management. So all these things are impossible. All these things are very difficult to manage, and Steve can help your brand get there. Some of the things that, aside from the rapid growth of some small humans at home, Mr. Black, Ron Palante, and many other major brands that are either emerging or about to blow up are in his portfolio. So Steve Myers, thank you so much for joining us at the Supplier Summit. I'm excited to hear your chat.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks for the great introduction. I don't know about the big brain, but I think it's more time in the trenches and experience and sort of having to do U-turns and get back on track as to what's got me here. So today's presentation, strategic partnerships and how to best engage your brand with the on-premise.
Okay, so Steve, you go ahead and focus on the presentation, and I'm going to focus on the engagement. So if anybody has a question, please put it in the chat. I'll make sure that Steve answers it, and I'll just shout out to him so that he can answer it directly. So we got people from all over the world here. Wow, we got people from the West Coast, the East Coast. We have Czechoslovakia. We have Italy, and then my hometown in New York. And Steve, of course, is in Philadelphia. So Steve, Thank you so much for doing this again, and let's fire it away. Let's have at it.
Fantastic. Okay, so the crux of this is that I feel that too many brands sell to accounts. They don't sell with them. So in order to create your own unicorn, marquee, however you want to describe this account, not only will it drive sales for you, but it's going to build brand awareness and create a venue that's in sync with you and your brand and your brand's ideals and philosophies. Before we dive too deep into it, a little bit about me. The principal at Dynamic Beverage Consultants. I'm an owner, founder, and board member at Illegal Mezcal. So I launched Illegal here in the US and about 14 countries around the world. And then through those efforts, got engaged with Mr. Black and helped bring them to market in the US. Empirical, so the guys who used to run the test kitchen at Noma, who've now created their own, essentially it's a flavor company. Had a few hurdles to clear thanks to COVID and their very sort of unique brand and skill set. So sort of restructured the US route to market for them. And then currently I'm working with Rum Palante, which is a rum from Chiapas in Mexico, and Bite, which is a syrup company out of Copenhagen in Denmark. So as Jason mentioned earlier, I do sort of route to market branding and sales consultancy. So today's takeaway menu. I've got a fairly successful track record of bringing brands to market at this point, and hopefully I can sort of pass on some of that information and understanding of the market. So rather than tell you what to do, I'm going to try and help you understand and how to empower you and sort of do it yourselves. So we're going to review the what, why, and how to create strategic partners within the on-premise. That's going to give you that increase in sales, but also equally as importantly, create trade and consumer evangelists. So what is a strategic partnership? Essentially, strategic partnerships have to be mutually beneficial from a branding, financial, and growth perspective. So the big takeaway here is each party must view and understand the relationship's goals and objectives from the other party's perspective. Too often, as I mentioned earlier, brands sell to, they don't sell with. Brands also need to provide a business solution or a value-added proposition or something beyond just another option for the well or the back bar or the happy hour menu. So this really boils down to understanding what your partner wants. You're going to try and create that classic win-win scenario. But the big thing with strategic partnerships is that it takes a longer-term view. So for us sort of smaller brands that are sort of new to market or developing, we can't do the swipe the card. We can't do the very short-term ticking box solutions. We've got to take a longer-term view at this. So when you take that longer-term view, it really does allow you to maximize your resources. So it allows the venue management to run the venue rather than have to manage suppliers. As a brand, you understand a lot more about what the venue is looking for, whether that be pricing, education, but also it allows you the opportunity to tell people what's different about you, what's different about your brand. So the big thing here is spend time with them, spend time in and with these accounts. So why the strategic partnership from a brand perspective? We're also going to do from a venue perspective and from a consumer perspective. Brands need points of distribution. And I'm sure, as you all know, sort of speaking with investors, potential investors, and distributors these days, your rate of sale and velocity from a single account are becoming as important, if not more so, than the number of points of distribution that you have. A strategic partnership allows you to focus less on the number of points of distribution and really get after building a brand with these key partners that you create. Now, strategic partnerships offer so much more than just multiple points of distribution. It can help you determine sort of your drink strategy. It increases consumer engagement. It will certainly strengthen your distributor relationship. They like looking at numbers and they like looking at rate of sale. And also data capture, which oftentimes brands sort of forget about. It helps you sort of internally in regards to what drinks are working, what sort of demographics you're really resonating with, thanks to the nature of the account. And the one here that I've got in caps is enjoyment. And oftentimes we get so caught up in running a brand or running a business that we forget the industry we're in, right? Granted, we do work when others play, but we have a pretty fantastic sort of environment and world that we work in. So engaging with partners and consumers and selling drinks and creating those drinking occasions and those momentous occasions, not just for your consumer, but for your partners, is really key from the branding perspective. Having key sort of a reduced number of key partnerships is far more effective and more efficient than having multiple one-off partnerships. As I said before, there's only so many hours in the day. There's only so much time and effort and resources that you can deploy into the field. So you're far better off focusing on a single or a reduced number of accounts to build your brand. From the venue perspective, an additional partner helps them drive sales. It helps them increase customer attendance and engagement. Not just the classic brand support. So depending on what state you're in, that can sort of come through multiple forms. But also from a venue perspective is they now get access to brand, and I've got category education. Too many of the smaller brands are so not inwardly focused, but they're so focused on presenting their own brand that they forget about the category they're in. Now you need to consider the category, whether that be rum, gin, scotch, but also the price point category. If you can become an education touchstone for venues, they will come to you with more and more problems, solutions, ideas, further strengthening that partnership that you have. Oftentimes, brands have a far better marketing and branding expertise than a venue. Venues get to tap into a broader PR and social media network. Everybody likes getting mentioned in the local fish wrapper. And also you can combine to sort of increase the network of the consumer database that brands as well as venues can then reach out and have sort of direct online engagement with. Last but not least, the consumer perspective. This is what it's all about. It's liquor on lips. And in this case, it's going to be liquor on lips through cocktails. So this is very much a sort of a heart to minds campaign. How does the venue and the brand combine? Strategic partnerships often result in sort of brand driven, which we'll get into in a minute, but different experiences rather than going for a drink or a cocktail. It's much more immersive. People begin to associate specific drinks with specific brands rather than just cocktail ingredients. It allows these consumers to increase their level of brand knowledge and enjoyment. And obviously what you'll find is then these consumers then go back to their business, their social, their community groups as a bit of an activist for the brand. And they get to become an active participant both in the brand and the venue. So when you engage them in regards to talking about cocktails or thoughts or whatever, sort of the deeper you can draw consumers into a brand, the better brand you will build. So how to create strategic partners. There's a couple of different ways. Brand-owned activations. This is where brands provide entertainment content and requirements sort of outside the remit or skill of an account. So venues are good at running venues. They're not necessarily good at booking artists or musicians or, as the case may be these days, tattoo artists. So this is where you let the right partner maximize sort of their knowledge and their efficiency and their effectiveness. So the best example here is I've got is the Illegal Mezcal music series. So Illegal, rather than work with brands and have the brands go and source the music talent, Illegal knows the type of music they want. They know the bands that they like. They've got a track record with working with them. So they take care of all the aspects of bringing talent to the in-venue activation. This was then incorporated into the 10-year tour. So Illegal in the US is closing on about the 14-year overnight success at this point. But they were able to sort of combine all their experience in working with music and understanding the brand and bringing that to venues. event amplification activations, I guess. So trade events such as Tales of the Cocktail, BCB, and sort of other industry and consumer events. So with a captive audience attending a larger event, how have brands sort of best engaged with them? Sort of some really solid examples for that is Mr. Black and Coffee Fest. Mr. Black is the booze educator for the coffee people. So it's a value add to all the attendees of Coffee Fest. I found that Littrell did a really good activation at BCB, obviously with a long-term partner as to who they're working to build the brand with. And then Ford's Gin at Tales of the Cocktail. Certainly they threw a great party, but several of their events were at key venues down in New Orleans where they were able to build sort of a long-term relationship in regards to menu placement and education in regards to their consumers and how they engage with them in the brand's absence. Pop-ups. Everybody likes a pop-up. Pop-ups oftentimes are single events that are very sort of time and money consuming. So how do brands create strategic partners using pop-ups? Again, to amplify the partnership and existing goals of both the businesses. Your pop-up needs to take into account the relative size of the activation within the venue, the length of time of the event, the frequency. In my experience, one-off pop-ups, whilst are fun and enjoyable, don't really move the needle. Brands need to be aware they need to move away from having a great party and a great time and working out what the results are from your engagement with the venue and the consumers. And then how can you translate these pop-ups into the continuity of the everyday operations of the venue? So the day of the event, what's the knock-on effect? The day after, the week after that. So some really good examples there is Palante, which is the rum from Mexico. They do several salsa pop-ups. Now, this is not necessarily a rum-driven event. It's more of a dancing-driven event. And Palante is sort of the dancing/social lubricant that sort of amplifies the enjoyment and the fun aspect of it. It's not just about the rum, but it's about the occasion. Brand evangelists. This is what we all want. We want those consumers who have a genuine affinity for and love of the brand. Now, trade evangelists, we need those. We need that consumer-facing pseudo-brand ambassador representative who will be able to engage and educate on behalf of us and our brands when we're not there. We need to try and get that brand in the forefront of their mind when it's menu season, when it's cocktail competition season, when it's consumption after work season. So the stronger the relationship you have with venues, the more likely you are to be sort of front and center with the bartenders' minds. And then consumer evangelists, as I mentioned before. These are the people who will take the brand home with them. They introduce it to friends, family, social, work circles. They will attend events. They are the ones who will, when you come out with a value-added pack or a limited edition, will buy. They are the ones who will buy the bundle online because it's got a pin or an extra T-shirt. They're the ones who will be those evangelists and acolytes and speak to it to their friends and sort of enjoy being that point of knowledge and that point of experience for other people. It's the amplifier effect that these brand evangelists will create because you've got a long-term strategic relationship with the venue where you repeat and go back and back and back. So the learnings, what do we learn from strategic partnerships? Creates a long-term partnership between the brand and trade, obviously. It allows brands and venues to amplify their efforts. Sort of very much the concept of the sum of the totals is greater than the whole. Sort of brands are then able to sort of target specific markets in a controlled fashion. Brands should not be everything to everyone, but this sort of methodology allows brands, marketing, branding, activation, and consumer engagement to develop and evolve. If you do a single event, you only get a single learning. Whereas if you do multiple events at the same venue, they won't be the same. They're going to grow. They're going to evolve. And so your branding and your marketing and sort of activations, philosophy, policies, procedures, however you want to describe it, will evolve with this. Then in regards to resource management, in this case, less accounts, ordering more is far better. And so just as the example here, if you've got 20 accounts ordering 10 cases, that is far better. So 20 accounts that you're dealing with and hopefully enjoying working with, as opposed to 1,200 accounts. There's no way you can possibly service all that, whether that be sort of distributor management or mismanagement or just not being able to attend in time. The best anecdote you can ever possibly get or receive is having a brand manager or bartenders ask why you're returning to a venue. I've had several where they've said, "What are you doing here? We know you, we love you. You don't have to come and visit us anymore." That's the point that you want to get with your halo, your marquee, your unicorn accounts. They are essentially part of your brand family. So to create that legion of brand evangelists for both the trade and the consumer, and that's my take on how you build a strategic relationship within the on-premise. Any questions?
Yes, I have a million questions. Hold on a second. Yes, I have a million questions. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so I've got a million questions for you. And y'all, if you have questions, just throw it in the chat real quick. But I had a couple questions about, so can you run us through an occasion? So you talked about salsa for Ron Palante. You talked about a couple of other ideas, but let's say you're building a brand, I don't know, let's say a coffee liqueur from Australia. How do you create an occasion for that? And how do you explain, how do you connect that occasion with the brand? And then how do you communicate that with an account? And do you communicate that with each account, or do you communicate, is that the broad macro strategy?
So in this particular example, how I positioned said coffee liqueur is that we were the coffee educators for the spirits business, and we were the booze educators for the coffee business. Now, sort of America drinks about $9 billion worth of coffee every year. So we're pretty fortunate in that, not that people know a lot about coffee, but they know what it is. They know what it's supposed to smell like. They know what it's supposed to taste like. So, but oftentimes people would stop drinking at 2, 3 in the afternoon. So our goal in regards to sort of engaging with the trade was to expand that coffee consumption window. And sort of how do you create that drinking occasion? Obviously, you've all seen the resurgence of the espresso martini. Done well.
Shit. Oh my God.
Done well. It is
everybody's doing espresso martinis. Like everybody. They have some, like, it's like the margarita 5 years ago for tequila, or it became a mezcal cocktail. Now, like, every vodka is becoming a espresso martini serve. And that strategy of educating the coffee people and then in turn educating the coffee people seems to be working. Also, Tom Baker is also a genius at branding. But all right. So how do you frame that messaging? How do you frame it how do you communicate that concisely and quickly in a way that people can remember it? And what can you do? What can a brand do today to reframe their brand in a way that they're memorable in that respect?
Yeah. So what we did was we created a new drinking occasion based around a cocktail that is phenomenally successful all around the world. So the track record was there. There was the value-added proposition of the margins that a venue would make. Rather than have to pull hundreds of espressos, we aligned them with a sort of, depending on sort of the market, the coffee supplier. We did coffee education, and then also sort of small things depending on the size and nature of the account. Best example is that if you really shake up a single espresso martini and get a nice crema, it splits into 2 Nick and Nora glasses. So anyone who would walk into a bar and see 8 espresso martinis lined up across the bar, for the people with their first sort of drink of the evening, the ratio of people purchasing, literally walking in, doing a When Harry Met Sally, going, "Oh, I'll have what they're having." So sort of we showed the benefits to the venue. We created a good looking drink, and we worked out how to engage with the consumers at that venue for them.
Wow, it's pretty brilliant, and it seems to be working. So congratulations on the success of Mr. Black, and obviously your stunning track record of exit with Illegal. So congratulations more to Bacardi, I guess, for getting their piece of the magic that you created.
They're a little bit. We like to beat them up fairly regularly, which is.
All right, y'all. If you guys don't have any more questions, then we'll wrap it up here. We like to keep these sessions very short and actionable. We want to make sure that you are getting something to take away today that you can apply to your brand. And so, Steve, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
I do not. But there's my website, my email, and my phone number. Any questions, please do hit me up, and hopefully we can work together with some of you.
That's right. You can rent Steve's brain if you just reach out to him. All right. So we are looking. I'm desperate. This is the first Supplier Summit, so we're desperately looking for feedback. I put a link in the chat if anybody wants to leave a little bit of feedback for the content of the discussion, for the how things are going. But we have a full day scheduled next. So if you're a distillery owner or a brand owner, then we're going to teach you how to build your email list in the next session, and then you're going to have to suffer through me talking about cold prospecting because I'm a nerd. And then that's going to be the end of the sessions for today. But we have a full week packed for you guys. If you can't make it to each session, then you can your ticket gets you the replay. If you're only set up for one session, then this is it. Be sure to talk to Steve. But I'd love to hear your feedback. I want to thank you all for showing up from all around the world. Wow, we've got Czechoslovakia, we've got Italy, we've got Brooklyn, we've got Seattle. We really appreciate your support, y'all, for the first ever Supplier Summit. Give us a pat on the back. Let us know if we're doing a good job, or tell me what we can do to make it better. So thank you, Steve Myers from Dynamic Beverage Consultants. It's a pleasure to have you, and I look forward to seeing you soon. We're actually your presentation is actually tomorrow. You want to talk about what you're talking about tomorrow?
So tomorrow, the next step from this is how to bring your brand to market narrow and deep. I referenced a little earlier about how you can't be everything to everyone, and nor should you be. So if you go narrow and deep, you learn how to bring your brand to market, and then you can then make that scalable and replicable around the country, around the world, obviously with slight tweaks depending on the different market, but how to get your learnings in early, build your brand, and then grow properly.
All right, y'all, that's it. If you want to see a replay of the session, it's going to be available through the end of the month. We'll be sure to send you an email on how to get in touch with Steve and how to see this replay again. If you haven't got your tickets to the other sessions, I highly recommend it. And if you can't swing it right now, just let me know. We'll send you a discount code. Just reply to summit@jlittrell.com, and we'll sort you out. All right, thanks, y'all. Have a great day, and we look forward to seeing you at the next session.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone.
And that's it.